The NWA Television Championship was a mid-card title in the Mid-Atlantic Territory in the 1970s and 1980s, before moving over to Crockett Promotions when Mid-Atlantic merged with Georgia in 1985. We'll take a look at every champion that held the title, including the predecessor and successors of the championship. Like other videos of this kind on this channel, this is not a deep dive into each and every title reign. I call it a glorified list of champions, but we will slow down and take a look at some interesting points along the way. Looks like the clock says 6:05, so let's get into it. The title was originally known as the NWA Mid-Atlantic Television Championship, and its history began with a tournament to crown a new champion in Raleigh, North Carolina on February 27, 1974. Veteran Dandy Danny Miller became the first champion by defeating Ole Anderson in the tournament final. Miller was better known as a tag team wrestler early in his career, but was finding singles success as he neared retirement. Miller had a nice run of 72 days with the belt, dropping it to Ivan Koloff on May 10, 1974 in Richmond, Virginia. The Russian Bear had a solid run with the title himself, holding the belt 59 days before he lost it to Paul Jones on July 8, 1974 in Charlotte, North Carolina. This would spark a feud between Koloff and Jones, which turned out to be one of the biggest feuds in Mid-Atlantic in the 1970s. There is some question as to how long Jones's run was in that first time around with the belt. I'm going with the majority of sources and say it ended at 108 days when he lost the title back to Ivan Koloff on October 24, 1974 in Anderson, South Carolina. That gave Jones the first reign over 100 days and made Koloff the first person to hold the title more than once. Koloff held the belt another 63 days, dropping the belt back to Paul Jones on December 26, 1974 in Greensboro, North Carolina. That would be the last title change between Jones and Koloff. Jones took the belt into 1975 with a 44-day reign, losing it to Ric Flair on February 8th in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This was the first singles title of the then almost 26-year-old Flair's career. Flair turned in the longest Mid-Atlantic Television Championship reign up to that point with a 181-day run. Ric finally dropped the belt back to Paul Jones on August 8, 1975 in Richmond, Virginia, making Jones a three-time champion. Jones was in the midst of a long reign as well, but after he won the United States Championship on November 27th, he chose to relinquish the television championship. This was a common thing to do at the time, so the wrestler could concentrate efforts on defending the more prestigious title. Jones officially gave up the TV championship on December 3rd, 1975, to end his reign at 117 days. A tournament was held in Raleigh, North Carolina on April 14, 1976 to fill the vacant championship. Angelo Mosca defeated Mr. Wrestling Tim Woods in the final to take the title. Angelo Mosca is a name that has faded into wrestling history a bit for modern fans. Mosca was born in Waltham, Massachusetts, and played football at the University of Notre Dame. Mosca was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, but would go on to play in the Canadian Football League, where he appeared in 9 Grey Cup games with the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Ottawa Rough Riders. That's a record he shares with 5 other players as of 2026. It was while wrapping up his football career in Montreal that Mosca began wrestling part-time, turning to a full-time career after his retirement in 1972. Mosca wrestled all across North America, spending most of his time in Mid-Atlantic, Florida, and the WWF. Despite already being in his 30s before becoming a full-time wrestler, Mosca had a very successful career, winning various championships and going on to serve as a commentator and promoter after retiring. His son Angelo Mosca Jr. also wrestled in Florida, Mid-Atlantic, and the WWF in the 1980s. As the Mid-Atlantic Television Champion, Mosca had a nice 77-day reign before dropping the belt to Paul Jones on June 30th, 1976 in Raleigh. Jones had lost the U.S. title in March. Jones and Mosca would feud over the TV championship, with Mosca regaining the title on August 11th in Raleigh on a taped episode of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling to end Jones's fourth title run at 42 days. Mosca's second time around with the TV title lasted 66 days, ending with a loss to Mr. Wrestling on October 16, 1976, in Greensboro, North Carolina. The longtime veteran had the shortest reign to that point, losing the belt after 23 days to Greg Valentine in Fayetteville, North Carolina on November 8th. Valentine would then break that shortest reign mark with a 22-day run, losing the belt to Rufus R. Jones on November 30th in Charleston, South Carolina. Jones and Valentine feuded over the belt going into 1977, with the clash of Jones's crowd-pleasing charisma and Valentine's hard-nosed, brutal tactics, making it one of the legendary feuds of Mid-Atlantic in the 1970s. Rufus dropped the belt back to Greg Valentine after 50 days, with Valentine taking the title on January 19, 1977, in Raleigh. 27 days later, Valentine lost the belt back to Rufus R. Jones in Raleigh on February 15th, leaving both as two-time champions as the feud over the belt came to an end. Jones held the title another 48 days before another feud brought his TV title run to an end. Jones lost the belt to Ric Flair on April 4, 1977 in Greenville, South Carolina, also making Flair a two-time TV champion. Flair enjoyed a solid 72-day title reign, losing the belt to a longtime friend and foe, Ricky Steamboat, on June 15, 1977, on a taped episode of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in Raleigh, North Carolina. Steamboat turned in the first title reign in 2 years, lasting over 100 days with a 119-day run, ending with a loss to Baron von Raschke on October 12, 1977, in Raleigh. Roughly a month after von Raschke's victory, the Mid-Atlantic Television Championship would have its first name change. Von Raschke claimed to have won a tournament in San Francisco involving all the television champions from across the country. Of course, the tournament was a fictional tournament, but the name change was real. The NWA Mid-Atlantic Television Championship was now known simply as the NWA Television Championship, and may have been a very early sign of Jim Crockett Jr.'s future ambitions. More on that later. Von Raschke held the newly named championship in 1978 with a 144-day reign, the second longest in title history at that point, losing it to Johnny Weaver on March 5th in Charlotte, North Carolina. Weaver would set the mark for the shortest reign at that point, losing the belt back to Baron von Raschke after 21 days on March 26th in Greensboro, North Carolina. Baron held the title another 73 days, this time dropping it to Paul Jones, who checked in with his record fifth title reign on June 7, 1978, in Raleigh, North Carolina. Jones set out on a run that shattered the previous record for the longest TV title reign set by Ric Flair at 181 days. Over the course of just over a year, Jones defended in rematches against Baron von Raschke, as well as against Big John Studd, Ricky Steamboat, Dino Bravo, Jimmy Snuka, and a series of matches with both the TV title and Ric Flair's United States Championship on the line, among many others. Jones' toughest challenges were against Steamboat, as the two feuded over the title through most of that year, with matches including a Texas Death Match and a Lumberjack match. It was finally Ricky Steamboat that brought Jones's reign to an end at 368 days, taking the title on June 10, 1979, in Asheville, North Carolina. Steamboat had an impressive reign himself, lasting 136 days and ending when he vacated the TV championship after he and Jay Youngblood won the Mid-Atlantic version of the NWA World Tag Team Championship. In a tournament final on April Fool's Day 1980, Masked Superstar defeated Blackjack Mulligan to fill the vacant title. Superstar's title reign ended at 213 days, the second longest in title history at the time, as Superstar chose to surrender the title. Masked Superstar wanted to concentrate his efforts on the tag team division, while teaming with Paul Jones as they worked toward trying to win the World Tag Team Championship. Officially, Superstar won the TV Championship on April Fool's Day and relinquished it on Halloween, October 31st, 1980. On November 1st, Roddy Piper won a tournament final against, ironically enough, Paul Jones to take the title. The tournament was held in Richmond, Virginia. Piper took the TV title in the 1981 and also surrendered the championship after he won the United States Heavyweight Championship from Ric Flair, with the TV championship being officially vacated on January 27th and ending Piper's reign at 87 days. This led to the famous on-air confrontation between Piper and Flair, where Piper gifted the TV title to Flair. It was not accepted. Another tournament was held on April 29, 1981 in Raleigh, with the final shown on television. Sweet Ebony Diamond defeated Greg Valentine in the final to take the TV championship and end the vacancy. You surely know Sweet Ebony Diamond better as Rocky Johnson. To be honest, I didn't even know Sweet Ebony Diamond was a thing until I made this video. Diamond feuded with Greg Valentine over the belt, with them trading it back and forth over the next several weeks. When the first title change between Diamond and Valentine happened is unclear. Every source gives a different date and no sure location. And to be fair, this could have been a phantom match, and no date or location was ever given. I'm just going to put it in the middle of assumed dates and say Valentine took the title around May 9th, 1981. That ends Diamond's first title reign at 10 days. Whenever Valentine won it, he only held the belt until May 30th, when he dropped it back to Sweet Ebony Diamond in Charlotte, North Carolina, when Diamond's second reign ended. Really isn't much more clear than the first. June 14th, 1981 seems to be the most likely date Diamond dropped the belt back to Greg Valentine to end his reign at 15 days. Savannah, Georgia is the most likely location, and if accurate, makes this the first NWA television title change not in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Virginia. The lineage is a little more clear after that, but don't worry, that doesn't last long. Valentine had a nice run of 84 days with the belt, dropping it to Ron Bass on September 6, 1981 in Asheville, North Carolina. Bass had a decent run of 58 days as champion before he lost the belt to Ivan Koloff on November 3rd, 1981 in Charlotte, North Carolina. That marked the first time in 7 years Koloff held the belt. Ivan had a 60-day title reign, ending with a loss to the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, on January 2nd, 1982 in Hampton, Virginia. And this is where things get a little screwy. Apparently, there was at least one phantom match with no clear date where Ivan Koloff regained the TV title, then lost it back to Jimmy Valiant on June 6, 1982 at a card in Toronto, Ontario. This was evidently done just for the fans in Toronto and was never mentioned to fans on Mid-Atlantic television. They even did this a second time later in the year when neither Koloff or Valiant even held the belt. Since I try to stick to what is officially recognized by the promotion itself, I won't count this as part of the lineage. If you do happen to be from Toronto, you can take note of this as part of the history of the title. Excluding phantom matches and phantom title reigns, Valiant had a 260-day reign with the TV title, second only to Paul Jones's 368-day reign in 1978 and 1979. Jimmy finally dropped the belt to Joe LeDuc on September 19, 1982 in Charlotte, North Carolina. LeDuc held the title 37 days and made heavy use of cheating to keep the belt. LeDuc was finally stripped of the title on October 26, 1982 for using the ropes to beat Johnny Weaver in a title defense. Rather than put together a tournament, Mid-Atlantic filled the title vacancy with a 20-man battle royal on November 25, 1982 in Greensboro, North Carolina. Bad Leroy Brown came out the winner to begin the 33rd or so title reign for the NWA Television Championship. Brown held the title 28 days, losing the belt to Mike Rotundo on Christmas night 1982 in Charlotte. Rotundo took the belt in 1983 with a 59-day title reign, dropping it to Dick Slater on February 22nd in Columbia, South Carolina. Slater held the title 35 days before losing it to Roddy Piper, who checked in for his second TV title reign on March 27, 1983 in Columbia, South Carolina. Piper only held the belts a week, dropping it back to Dick Slater on April 3, 1983 in Greensboro, North Carolina. Slater would not quite make it out of April with the belt, losing the title to Joe LeDuc on April 30th in Richmond, Virginia. LeDuc only held the title 23 days before losing it to the Great Kabuki on May 23, 1983 in Greenville, South Carolina. Kabuki would put an end to the short title reigns, keeping the belt into November with a 185-day run when a mysterious masked man brought his time with the TV title to an end. Kabuki and his manager Gary Hart had been feuding with Jimmy Valiant, and in the defense of the TV championship in August 1983, defeated Valiant in a loser leaves town match. While Valiant was no longer a thorn in the side of Kabuki, a new wrestler to the territory took his place. By the end of the month, the masked Charlie Brown from out of town had set his sights on Kabuki. Many claimed Charlie Brown was actually Jimmy Valiant wearing the mask. Can't imagine why. Brown would take up the feud, leading to Gary Hart challenging on behalf of Kabuki for a title versus mask match against Charlie set for the first Starrcade to be held in Greensboro, North Carolina. Charlie readily accepted. And Charlie Brown defeated Kabuki for the NWA Television Championship at Starrcade on November 24, 1983 in Greensboro. It was the quote-unquote first TV title reign for Brown. Charlie Brown would officially hold the TV title for 55 days when he decided to unmask and revealed that he was indeed Jimmy Valiant. Despite the fact that Valiant was allowed to remain in the territory, he was forced to relinquish the television championship because he won it while he was banned from the territory. Valiant's, or Brown's, reign officially came to an end on January 18, 1984. An 8-man tournament was held in Spartanburg, South Carolina on March 7, 1984. Mark Youngblood defeated Dick Slater to fill the vacancy and begin his first title reign. It was also in Spartanburg where that reign came to an end when Youngblood dropped the belt after 21 days to Tully Blanchard, who also began his first reign as the TV champion on March 28th. Blanchard came within days of reaching Paul Jones' record of 368 days as champion, losing the title after 353 days to Dusty Rhodes on March 16, 1985 in Greensboro, North Carolina. This was also Rhodes' first TV title reign and fueled the fire of a feud between Rhodes and Blanchard. It was also during Rhodes' first run with the belt that a history-making change was made that brought with it another name for the TV championship. In 1984, the World Wrestling Federation purchased majority ownership of Georgia Championship Wrestling and took over the World Championship Wrestling TV time slot on Superstation WTBS. The day would come to be known as Black Saturday for Georgia wrestling fans, as they largely rejected the WWF product. Less than a year later, Jim Crockett Jr. purchased the World Championship Wrestling time slot from the WWF for $1 million. Crockett then merged the Mid-Atlantic Territory with Championship Wrestling from Georgia, which was Ole Anderson's promotion started to keep the Georgia Territory active in the National Wrestling Alliance. The two merged territories came to be known simply as Jim Crockett Promotions. Along with the highly lucrative TV time slot came a change for the NWA Television Championship, which was now known as the NWA World Television Championship. Dusty Rhodes would carry the newly named TV title a total of 43 days, dropping it back to Tully Blanchard on April 28, 1985 in Charlotte, North Carolina. Blanchard held the belt 69 days in his second reign, as things were set up for that year's Great American Bash, where Dusty regained the title on July 6th in Charlotte. Dusty's second reign came to an end at 105 days when he was stripped of the belt for failure to defend the title. Rhodes was out of commission after his leg was broken by Ric Flair and Ole and Arn Anderson at a card in Atlanta after Dusty had come to Flair's aid in a cage match against Nikita Koloff. This led into the early stages of the impromptu formation of the Four Horsemen, consisting of Flair, the Andersons, and Tully Blanchard, with manager James J. Dillon. In the finals of a 9-man tournament held in Greensboro, North Carolina, Arn Anderson defeated Wahoo McDaniel to claim the World Television Championship on January 4, 1986. Arn went on to a lengthy reign of 248 days, during which time the Four Horsemen established themselves as the driving force in Crockett Promotions, and Jim Crockett Jr. took control of the NWA. Other territories either broke away to form their own alliances, faded out of existence, or may as well have. Anderson finally dropped the TV title to Dusty Rhodes on September 9, 1986 in Columbia, South Carolina, deepening the feud between Rhodes and the Horsemen. Rhodes had a 79-day run with the TV title, finally losing it to Tully Blanchard at Starrcade 86 in Greensboro, North Carolina in a first blood match on November 27th. Tully actually bled first in the match, but the referee had been knocked down and James J. Dillon wiped Tully's blood away before using Vaseline to close the wound. Dillon then handed Blanchard a foreign object to use on Dusty to bust him open. Blanchard ended up holding the belt through the rest of 1986 and through most of 1987, a 263-day reign, before dropping the belt to Nikita Koloff on August 17, 1987 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Koloff had turned face the previous October and was aligned with Dusty Rhodes. At the November 27, 1987 Starrcade, Koloff defeated Terry Taylor to unify the NWA World Television Championship with the Universal Wrestling Federation Television Championship. Crockett had bought out the UWF in April 1987. Koloff had a 162-day title reign, finally dropping the belt to Mike Rotunda on January 26, 1988 in Raleigh, North Carolina. This would be Rotunda's second time holding the belt. He also held it using the name Mike Rotundo in 1982. During this long second reign, there would be another history-changing event. Jim Crockett Jr. sold Crockett Promotions to TBS owner Ted Turner, who renamed the company World Championship Wrestling. Crockett was still in the picture as the president of the National Wrestling Alliance, and World Championship Wrestling would continue to be a member of the NWA, but WCW moved forward as their own company. Officially, the television title was known as both the NWA World Television Championship and the WCW World Television Championship. Rotunda went on to have a 335-day reign, holding it through almost the entirety of 1988, finally dropping the belt to Rick Steiner at Starrcade in Norfolk, Virginia on December 26th. Rotunda and Steiner had been Varsity Club tag team partners, but had split when Rotunda and Kevin Sullivan turned on Rick. Steiner had a comparatively short reign, holding the belt 56 days before losing it back to Mike Rotunda at Chi-Town Rumble in Chicago, Illinois on February 20th, 1989 as their feud continued. Rotunda only added 39 more days to his total time with the title, losing it to Sting in Atlanta, Georgia on March 31st, 1989. Sting's title reign officially ended at 114 days because of a controversial ending to a defense against the Great Muta at the Great American Bash in Baltimore on July 23rd. And near the end of the match, referee Nick Patrick was hit in the face with the red mist Muta sprayed intended for Sting. With Patrick down, Tommy Young came from the back and counted a pin, but it wasn't clear whose shoulders were down or if either of the wrestlers' shoulders were down for the 3 count. WCW decided to hold the title up and schedule a rematch between Sting and Muta. On September 3, 1989 in Atlanta, Georgia, the Great Muta defeated Sting to take the World TV title and begin his first run with the belt. Muta had a solid reign of 121 days, ending when he dropped the belt to Arn Anderson on an episode of WCW Power Hour in Gainesville, Georgia on January 2, 1990. Despite only being Anderson's second time with the title, it was this reign that helped almost make him synonymous with the World Television Championship, as he went on another long reign of 336 days, giving him 584 days as champion at that point. Anderson would drop the title briefly to the Z-Man, Tom Zink, with Zink winning it on a taped episode of World Championship Wrestling in Atlanta on December 4th, 1990. Zink would take the belt in 1991 with a 34-day reign before dropping it back to Arn Anderson on an episode of Worldwide Wrestling in Perry, Georgia. During Anderson's third reign as TV champ, there would be one final name change for the title. While WCW would remain a member of the NWA for 2 more years, the NWA at this point basically existed in name only. By February 1991, World Championship Wrestling stopped referring to all of the championships as NWA titles, including the World Television Championship. Other than continuing to recognize Ric Flair as the NWA World's Champion, the NWA dropped recognition of all other titles. The NWA World Television Championship was now solely the WCW World Television Championship. However, it would take some time to get a new belt. Anderson's third reign as TV champion would turn out to be his shortest. Anderson dropped the belt after 132 days to beautiful Bobby Eaton at Super Brawl in St. Petersburg, Florida on May 19, 1991. Eaton only held the belt 15 days, losing it to Steve Austin in Birmingham, Alabama on June 3rd on a taped episode of Worldwide Wrestling. Still a few years away from becoming arguably the biggest name in pro wrestling, Austin put together the 5th longest reign in the history of the TV championship. Austin held the title 329 days, finally losing the belt to Barry Windham on April 27, 1992 in Atlanta, Georgia, on an episode of WCW Saturday Night. Windham was only a temporary interruption, holding the title 26 days before dropping the belt back to Steve Austin on May 23rd in Chattanooga, Tennessee, on an episode of Worldwide. Austin added another 102 days to his total time with the championship, losing the belt at Clash of Champions in Atlanta on September 2nd, 1992, to Ricky Steamboat. This was Steamboat's third time holding the title, with his second coming almost 13 years previous to his third. Steamboat wouldn't make it out of September with the title, only holding it 27 days before he lost it to Scott Steiner on September 29th in Columbus, Georgia. Steiner would be stripped of the belt when both Scott and Brother Rick left WCW for the WWF, but there is no clear date when Scott was officially stripped of the title. Some sources say it was in January, some say it was in November. January doesn't really make any sense. His last WCW match in that stretch that I could find was a TV title defense against Steve Austin on October the 5th. Steiner spent a little time in Japan and debuted in the WWF in December. I'm just going to go with 30 days after his last defense and call it a 36-day reign ending on November 10th. A tournament was held in Macon, Georgia on March 2nd, 1993, with Paul Orndorff defeating Eric Watts in the final to fill the vacancy. The veteran Orndorff had a lengthy 169-day title reign, ending when he lost the belt to Ricky Steamboat at Clash of Champions in Daytona Beach, Florida on August 18, 1993. Steamboat had another relatively short reign of 32 days, dropping the belt to Lord Steven Regal on September 19, 1993 at Fall Brawl in Houston, Texas. Regal set out on a lengthy reign of 225 days, holding the belt well into 1994 before losing it to Larry Zbyszko on a taped episode of WCW Saturday Night on May 2nd in Atlanta, Georgia. Zbyszko kept the belt 52 days before losing it back to Lord Steven Regal on June 23, 1994 at Clash of Champions in Charleston, South Carolina. Regal's second title run was a little shorter, ending at 87 days when he dropped the belt to Johnny B. Bad at Fall Brawl in Roanoke, Virginia on September 18, 1994. Bad had a nice run of 112 days with the belt, ending when Arn Anderson checked in for his fourth and final TV title run on January 8, 1995 in Atlanta, Georgia. This was on an episode of WCW Main Event. Unfortunately, in hindsight, Anderson's time with the TV title came to an unspectacular end. After 161 days, Arn dropped the TV title to Ultimate Warrior knockoff The Renegade on June 18, 1995 at the Great American Bash in Dayton, Ohio. The Renegade had a decent run with the title, holding it 91 days before he lost it to Diamond Dallas Page in Asheville, North Carolina at Fall Brawl on September 17, 1995. Page was still a year or so away from exploding in popularity and turned in a 42-day run with the TV title, losing it to Johnny B. Bad at Halloween Havoc in Detroit, Michigan on October 29, 1995. Bad also won the managerial services of Dallas's real-life wife Kimberly in that match. In storyline, Dallas had been mistreating Kimberly, and Johnny won her freedom. Johnny had another nice run with the belt, taking it into 1996 with a 111-day reign before he dropped it to Lex Luger on February 17th in Baltimore, Maryland. Luger's reign would be the shortest in the history of the belt at that time. It would only be tied in later years. Luger lost the belt back to Johnny B. Bad one day later, February 18, 1996, in Norfolk, Virginia. As most people now know, Johnny B. Bad was actually Mark Miro, who was originally from Buffalo, New York, and grew up an accomplished hockey player. In his senior year of high school, Miro suddenly had a change of direction when he started training as a boxer under Golden Gloves coach Ray Rinaldi. Miro won 4 New York State titles, including the New York Golden Gloves tournament, and aspired to become a pro boxer. By 1990, his career aspirations changed when pro wrestling caught his eye, and he began training in Tampa, Florida. It was Dusty Rhodes that gave Miro the name and gimmick of Johnny B. Bad, a flamboyant Little Richard lookalike that was originally a heel, but later turned babyface. Vince McMahon took note, and when Miro left WCW over creative differences, the WWF scooped up Miro, making him the first pro wrestler in history to openly have a guaranteed contract. Unfortunately, the Johnny B. Bad name and character was owned by WCW, meaning Miro was not able to use it in the WWF. Centering on his history as a boxer, Miro used his real name in the WWF, but it was his wife Rena, serving as his valet, that caught all the attention. Miro did have a month-long run with the Intercontinental Championship, and as a side note in wrestling history, was the first person to be on the receiving end of a Stone Cold Stunner. Johnny B. Bad's third and final run as WCW Television Champion only lasted 17 days, with Bad losing it back to Lex Luger on March 6, 1996, on an episode of WCW Saturday Night in Macon, Georgia. Luger had a tighter grip on the TV title his second time around, holding it through most of the summer with a 167-day reign before losing it to Lord Steven Regal on August 20, 1996 in Dalton, Georgia. Regal's third TV title reign was a lengthy one, lasting 181 days and ending with a loss to Prince Iaukea on an episode of Nitro on February 17, 1997 in Tampa, Florida. Iaukea had a much shorter reign, holding the belt 49 days, before dropping it to Ultimate Dragon on April 7, 1997 in Huntsville, Alabama. This was also on an episode of Nitro. Dragon held the title 41 days, dropping the belt to Lord Steven Regal, who checked in for his fourth and final TV title run on May 18, 1997 at Slamboree in Charlotte, North Carolina. Regal's final TV title reign lasted 65 days, ending when he lost it back to Ultimate Dragon on July 22, 1997 on Nitro in Jacksonville, Florida. Dragon held the title 30 days in his second reign, losing the belt to Alex Wright on August 21, 1997 at Clash of Champions in Nashville, Tennessee. This was one of only 3 titles Wright won in his career. Alex previously held the WCW World Cruiserweight Championship and later held one half of the WCW World Tag Team Championship with Disco Inferno. Wright held the TV title 32 days, dropping it to his future tag team partner Disco Inferno on September 22, 1997 on an episode of Nitro in Salt Lake City, Utah. And that was the first of 5 consecutive title changes that happened on Nitro. Disco held the belt 42 days before dropping it to Perry Saturn on November 3, 1997 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Saturn had the 35-day run with the belt, losing it back to Disco Inferno on December 8, 1997 in Buffalo, New York. Inferno kept the belt another 21 days, dropping it to Booker T on December 29, 1997 in Baltimore, Maryland. Booker took the belt into 1998 and rounded out the series of title changes on Nitro when he lost it to Rick Martel on February 16th in Tampa, Florida. Martel would have a short reign of only 6 days, losing the belt back to Booker T at Super Brawl in San Francisco, California on February 22nd. Martel was supposed to retain the title, but suffered a severe leg injury mid-match that essentially ended his career. Martel was able to continue long enough to change the finish on the fly and drop the belt to Booker. Booker T held the title 67 days in that sudden second reign, dropping the belt to Chris Benoit on April 30th, 1998 in Augusta, Georgia. That started the stretch of Benoit and Booker literally trading the belt back and forth. Benoit's first TV title reign lasted only 1 day, with Booker T reclaiming the belt on May 1st in Greenville, South Carolina. Booker also lost the title after 1 day, with Chris Benoit taking his second TV championship on May 2nd in Charleston, South Carolina. 1 day later, May 3rd, 1998, Benoit dropped the belt back to Booker T in Savannah, Georgia. The trading between Booker and Benoit came to an end, but there is one more 1-day title reign. Booker T lost the belt on May 4th to Fit Finlay on an episode of Nitro in Indianapolis, Indiana. Finlay brought a little stability back to the championship, holding the title 41 days before he dropped the belt back to Booker T at the Great American Bash in Baltimore, Maryland on June 14, 1998. Booker's 5th title reign has an unusual ending as he never really lost it. After 29 days as champion, Booker was injured and unable to defend the championship. Booker's brother Stevie Ray emerged with the belt, claiming he had been given power of attorney by Booker to defend the title, but also kind of claimed he was the new TV champion. Regardless, officially Stevie Ray, working on Booker T's behalf, lost the title to Chris Jericho on an episode of Nitro on August 10, 1998 in Rapid City, South Dakota. Some sources list Stevie Ray as a champion, but most don't. I think it was simply Stevie standing in for Booker. Jericho turned in a title reign over 100 days with a 112-day run, finally losing the belt to Conan on November 30th, 1998 on Nitro in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Conan held the belt 28 days, losing it to Scott Steiner, who checked in with his second TV title reign 6 years after his first, on December 28, 1998, on Nitro in Baltimore, Maryland. Steiner took the title into 1999 with a 76-day reign, finally dropping the belt to Booker T on March 14th at the Uncensored pay-per-view in Louisville, Kentucky. This officially gave Booker his 6th World Television Championship title reign, passing the mark of 5 set by Paul Jones for the most TV title reigns. Booker's record-breaking reign lasted 56 days, ending with a loss to Scott's brother Rick Steiner at Slamboree on May 9, 1999 in St. Louis, Missouri. This was Rick's second run with the belt, coming 11 years after his first. Rick turned in the last TV title reign of over 100 days as WCW was entering its final years. Steiner held the belt 127 days before losing it to Chris Benoit on September 13, 1998 on Nitro in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Benoit finally held the belt longer than 1 day with a 41-day reign, losing it back to Rick Steiner on October 24, 1999 at Halloween Havoc in Las Vegas, Nevada. Steiner's third TV title reign ended after 28 days when he lost the belt to Scott Hall at the Mayhem pay-per-view in Toronto, Ontario on November 21, 1999. It looked like that might be the last time the TV title changed hands. 8 days later, on an episode of Nitro in Denver, Colorado, Hall was giving a backstage interview before he defended the United States Championship against Sid Vicious. When asked when he was going to defend the TV title, Hall directed his attention to Kevin Nash standing nearby, saying he didn't understand what the deal was with the TV title. It didn't come with free TV dinners, and he didn't get to meet Ted Turner or any TV stars. Nash took the belt from Hall and, after some pantomime basketball, slam dunked it into a trash can. With that, the WCW World Television Championship was officially vacated. But it wasn't over yet. On the February 19, 2000 episode of WCW Saturday Night in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Hacksaw Jim Duggan came to the ring carrying a garbage bag. In storyline, Duggan had been demoted to being the WCW janitor. This was well into Vince Russo's time with WCW. Once in the ring, Duggan emptied out the contents of the garbage bag to reveal that he had found the WCW World Television Championship belt and declared himself the new champion. Duggan went on to say today's prima donna stars didn't appreciate the history the belt represented, and he would defend it against anybody that wanted to challenge him for it. Duggan did defend the title several times over the next 54 days, including against former champion Steven Regal, the same night Duggan claimed the title. The WCW World Television Championship came to its second end, again on an episode of Nitro in Denver, Colorado, on April 10, 2000. After the infamous reboot of WCW, the title was simply deactivated, making Duggan the last in a long line of champions. And that was the unceremonious end to 26 years of history. Booker T held the belt more times than anyone else with 6 title reigns. Paul Jones had the longest single title reign at 368 days. Arn Anderson was champion for the most combined days at 877. The NWA did revive the World Television Championship in 2020. While I don't think it can be considered part of the same lineage, I also didn't want to completely ignore it. So here are a few of the people that have held the belt over the last 6 years. Ricky Stark defeated Trevor Murdoch in the tournament finals to win the title in Atlanta on January 24, 2020 to restart the championship. You might know Stark as Ricky Saint in WWE. Tyrus had a reign of almost 500 days as World TV Champion in 2021 and 2022, choosing to vacate the title to get a match for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Tom Latimer also had a lengthy run with the belt, holding it 213 days in 2023, and also surrendering it to get a shot at the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Brian Idol surrendered the belt in February 2026 to challenge for the NWA World title. The NWA does now have something called the Lucky 7 rule, where if the NWA World TV Champion successfully defends the title 7 consecutive times, they can trade the belt in on a shot at the NWA World Championship. Currently, the NWA World Television Champion is Alex Misery, who won the vacant title in a 5-way match on April 25, 2026 in Tampa, Florida. Well, I hope you enjoyed that history of what started as the Mid-Atlantic Television Championship. If you'd like to see the lineage of other titles in pro wrestling, you can click the link to the playlist on the end screen, or check out one of the other videos on the channel. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, not necessarily in that order. And I will see you next time.